Thank you for tuning in to WDRB Media, the voice of the community, the only station giving you double the information and inspiration. You're listening to Divorce Your Landlord that airs every Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'm your host, Terri Young. If this is your first time tuning in, Divorce Your Landlord is not just about your typical landlord, but the landlord that holds us back from achieving our goals, fulfilling our destiny, and living a purposeful life. Today's show is sponsored by Z3 Carolinas Group. The only BS they have time for is buyers and sellers. If you're looking to sell or buy real estate, contact them at 980-231-1428 or visit their website at www.z3carolinas.com. Today's landlord we're divorcing is bad money habits. Not having a budget is the number one culprit for bad money habits. Careless spending can easily lead to financial undoing, which will seriously undermine your chances for success. Even something as simple as not paying attention to small costs can really add up. Are you random or impulsive purchases sucking your budget dry? Setting a budget can keep you on track financially. In addition, if you stick with good money habits, like a budget, you will have fewer money anxieties so you can devote your time and energy to the things that really matter. When it comes to personal finance, there are a number of negative outcomes that can come from operating without a budget. And the longer you take to implement a budget, the more painful these consequences can become. So what are the consequences of not budgeting? Glad you asked. We're going to talk about some of those today. In short, the most common consequences of not budgeting include a lack of savings, less financial security, out of control spending, a higher likelihood of going into debt, and more financial stress. In addition, when you live without a budget, it becomes more difficult to navigate unexpected expenses and achieve your financial goals such as retirement or purchasing a home or getting out of debt. And if that wasn't enough to get you to create your first budget, we're going to discuss some painful consequences of not budgeting. So if you're on the fence about this whole thing about budgeting, I highly encourage you to keep listening. So number one, not having a budget makes it more difficult to achieve your financial goals. One of the most important things you can do if you want to achieve your financial goals is create a plan of attack. Beyond that, you need a way to keep track of your progress so that you can course correct if you start to drift off track, and that's exactly what a budget does for you. For example, if you set a goal to save $5,000 in emergency funds over the course of a year, then that means you need to save roughly about $416.66 every month. With a budget, you can easily plan your spending and cut expenses in order to achieve that goal. On top of that, you can continue to track your expenses. You will be able to identify when your spending is drifting off course and what you need to do to fix it. All of these things make achieving your financial goals a much clearer and defined process. And when you choose not to live by a budget, you miss out on all these benefits. Number two, not having a budget increase your lack of savings. Or can I say no savings? You won't have any. When you don't know your exact monthly income or your total monthly expenses, it's much more difficult to save money. Why, you ask? Because without a budget, the amount of money you save each month depends on how much you spend. And while that may seem logical, it is a bad way to operate your financial life. Instead, your spending habits should be based on how much you decide to save each month. For example, if you make $3,000 per month, you want to save $1,000 of that. Then all you need to do is figure out how to live off the $2,000 per month so you can save that $1,000. And that's where the budget shines and becomes your best friend. The best part about operating your finances like this is that you can save your desired amount the moment you receive your paycheck, and without worrying that you're over saving. This method is called pay yourself first method. So you know that you make $3,000 and say you get paid every 2 weeks, that's $1,500. Off the bat, you're going to pay yourself that $500 into that savings. And it's the best way to build savings because it places a higher priority on saving than spending. But the key thing is, it requires to have a budget. You need a budget to be successful. Number 3, not having a budget actually gives you less financial control. You heard me. You work hard every day to meet your obligations, to build a good life for yourself. If at the end of the month you don't know where your money went, you feel empty and unsatisfied, where did it go? What was all that effort for? It feels as if what happens to your money is out of your hands, but it's not. A budget makes that awful feeling of being out of control go away. When you budget, you take back control of your financial life. You tell your money where to go before the month starts. You stick to your budget, and at the end of the month, you will feel like you finally are in control of your money and not the other way around. You know where you stand. You can spot opportunities to lower your spending, make adjustments, and ensure that you're always making progress towards your goals. Before I committed to budgeting, I operated my finances using ballpark numbers, aka rounding game. In other words, I had a general idea of my monthly expenses, but if you press me, I couldn't give you an exact number. It was a lazy way to manage my finances, and it didn't lead to good things. So when I tell you that one of the consequences of not budgeting is the lack of financial control, I am truly speaking from experience. It wasn't until I started budgeting that I finally felt like I had complete control over my financial life. Lack of budget makes it too easy to overspend. It's easy to overspend when you don't know how much you can afford to spend or what you actually spend every month. Budgeting creates those boundaries within your financial life. When you budget properly, it's easy to know how much money you can realistically spend on food, housing, your automotive expenses, and just about anything else, while still staying on track to meet your financial goals. If you're not budgeting, you're guessing. And guesswork, as money management strategy, results in spending more than you make, getting into debt, having late fees, and even hardship. On the other hand, living without a budget removes most of the boundaries that keep your financial behavior in check. And when that happens, it becomes a lot easier to blow your money and end up broke. Number 5, people that don't have a budget take on more debt. You might be tempted to buy something you want with a credit card, thinking you could pay it off later. You don't know for sure, of course, because you're not budgeting your money. You figure you'll just deal with it when the bill comes. Or worse, you run out of cash until payday. Since you don't track your income and expenses, you now paying for your living expenses with the credit card. Then the bill comes. You don't have the money to pay the balance in full, so you make the minimum payment. The higher the interest rate, the more costly your initial purchase becomes, and the longer it takes off. Okay, for example, let's think about this. If you just make the $40 minimum payment every month with an 18% interest rate, that's about average right now, your $1,000 balance would take almost 6 years to pay off, and it will cost you an additional almost $1,500. Using your credit cards rather than budgeting for your bills and purchases lead to more debt, higher costs, default, and even sometimes bankruptcy. You can avoid the cycle of debt through budgeting. A budget will help you live within your means and get out or stay out of the debt trap. You can ensure that you have the money for your bills and save up for wants or major purchases instead of paying on credit. If you're already in debt and you're not budgeting, you're making it harder to get out of debt and stay out. Budgeting helps you set goals, like getting out of debt, keeps you on track to meet those goals. When you live on a budget, one thing becomes abundantly clear: debt sucks. I can tell you from personal experience that when you have to subtract a whole bunch of debt payments from your total income every month, it's easy to develop an allergic reaction to the idea of taking on more debt. But here's the thing. When you don't live on a budget, you lose the constant reminder of how harmful debt is on your financial life, which makes you more likely to go into more debt. And the more debt you take on, the more you reduce your net worth. It's a vicious cycle, and by the time you start to feel the negative impact of debt, you're in a financial hole that would take years to climb out of. Having been through this process of getting out of debt myself, I can tell you that it is a financial consequence worth avoiding at all costs. The good news is budgeting is the best way to avoid it, but budgeting is also the best way to get out of it and stay out of it. Number 6, another disadvantage to not having a budget, it makes it harder to navigate unexpected expenses. One of the hardest financial obstacles to overcome is an unexpected expense. One moment you feel like your finances are completely in control, and the next moment your car breaks down. You have to pay for a new transmission. It's in the moments like this that you will really feel the consequence of not budgeting. I've been there, felt it. It's not a good feeling. You don't have to consult your budget spreadsheet to know your rent, your mortgage payments due. The same might be true for some other recurring fixed expenses, right? You've been paying consistently for a long time. You know when they're due and approximately exactly how much you owe. But what about those periodic expenses that aren't due every month? Maybe your car insurance, maybe your dog vaccinations, maybe your anniversary gift to your significant other. What do you do when those dates draw near? Do you work yourself into a frenzy trying to figure out how you're going to pay? With a well-constructed budget, you just pay them when it's time to without breaking a sweat. So what do you mean you pay them? When you budget, you set aside money for those annual, semi-annual, quarterly expenses every month. You just have to divide the amount of the bill by the number of the months until the due date. Then put aside that amount each month. When the bill comes, the money is available for you to pay it without panic. You see, without a budget, it's much harder to manage the financial repercussions that an unexpected expense can have on your life. It could end up causing you to miss bill payments or even go into debt in order to make ends meet. Meanwhile, if you just take time to budget and prepare for unexpected expenses, you can drastically reduce the impact that they have on your life. Not having a budget make it easy to lose focus. When you don't live on a budget, it's easy to lose focus on your own financial goals and instead find yourself comparing your life to others. No budget leads to negative financial behaviors, like spending beyond your means and taking on debt to purchase things you can't afford. Instead of trying to improve your financial situation, you end up in more debt, trying to keep up with the Joneses, the Kardashians, the Carters, the Williams. You guys know. This is toxic. But the good news is budgeting can help prevent it, and it can help you get out of it. Number 8, no budget means more stress. I think the overarching consequence of not budgeting is an increase in stress. Think about it. Whether you're unprepared for unexpected expenses, you feel like you lost financial control, you spend beyond your means, you buried in debt, you are unfulfilled with your financial life. It is stressful. Whether it's debt collectors calling you all the time, facing a bill you can't pay, or worrying about your finances, money problems causes stress. According to a 2020 study on stress in America conducted by the American Psychological Association, 64% of adults indicated that money is a significant source of stress in their life. 64%. The physical and emotional effects of stress are well documented. Chronic stress leads to many health problems. Some of those stress-related health problems are linked to an early death. You suffer a lot less stress if you know where your money is going and how it's working for you. You can sleep easier knowing that your bills are paid and you're making progress towards your goal. And number 9, not having a budget means no retirement. Even if you love your job, you probably don't want to have to do it every day for the rest of your life. I know I don't. I love my job, but I don't want to have to do it every day for the rest of my life. I think it's safe to say most people like to retire young, with money, to live the rest of their life doing whatever they want with their time. That will not happen if you have no plan and you put no effort into achieving your retirement dream. Even if you have a long way to go before retirement, the best time to get started on saving for retirement was yesterday. However, today is the second best time. The longer you wait, the harder it is to get where you want to go. So remember, when you don't have a budget, getting into debt is a piece of cake. Without a budget, surprise expenses can throw you off track. Without a budget, you have no idea how much you could be saving. When you don't plan your spending, you waste money. When you don't have a spending plan, it is much more difficult to reach your goals. Overspending is easy to avoid if you build a budget and stick to it. You'll know at a glance how much you have and how much you can spend. If you have goals like establishing emergency funds, saving for college, or trying to come up with a down payment, budgeting is essential. You only have so much income. You don't know where it all goes. It's hard to reduce spending so you can carve out some cash to put towards your goals. If your approach to saving for your goals is just to save whatever is left over at the end of the month, your saving will be inconsistent at best and non-existent at worst. Remember, pay yourself first. Pay your savings first. When you build a budget, you examine all your spending. You're likely to turn up areas where you could easily spend less. Maybe you decide to eat out less, put that money towards one of your goals instead. Not keeping track of where your money goes is no way to secure your future. Build a budget that incorporates your retirement savings goal. Treat it like any other bill you pay every month. After the break, we will continue our discussion on divorcing this week's landlord, aka number 1 bad money habit, no budget. You're tuned in to WDRB Media, the voice of the community, the only station giving you double the information and inspiration. Don't go anywhere because we'll be right back. Did you know you can get pre-approved to purchase a home with a credit score of 600 or higher? And all you have to pay is 3.5% in down payment. If you have a goal to purchase a home, call or text me, Terri Young, at 980-202-1769. Again, that's 980-202-1769. Remember, I help buyers and sellers worldwide. Welcome back to WDRB Media, the voice of the community, and those streaming live through free TuneIn radio app and through iHeartRadio. You're listening to Divorce Your Landlord, and I'm your host, Terri Young. If you're just tuning in, today's landlord we're divorcing is number one bad money habit, no budget. Before the break, we talked about the number one bad money habit, not having a budget, which opens you up to overspending, having no savings, being unprepared for emergencies, falling more into debt, and being unable to retire. When you're not following a budget, achieving your financial goals is difficult. You also open yourself to stress and its related health problems. If just the thought of budgeting makes you feel grumpy, trying to think about it in a different light, right? Instead of seeing budgeting as a set of imposed restrictions, think of it as a gain instead. Think of it as another step helping you achieve your goals. We all have financial goals we want to achieve someday. Maybe you want to retire early, dream of paying your child's college tuition, purchase a real estate, or simply want to stop stressing over money every month. Either way, budgeting is the best way to make your dreams come true. And no matter how much you hate the idea, no amount of eye rolls can change that fact. If one of your dreams is to own a home, you need a budget. When it comes to home buying, everyone knows the critical rule. Don't purchase more house than you can afford. But what constitutes affordable will differ from one buyer to the next. Setting a home buying budget involves more than just seeing if you can swing a mortgage payment. To determine if a home is affordable, calculate your entire debt to income ratio. That is all your monthly expenses divided by your gross income. Home ownership involves a variety of ongoing costs, including home insurance, property taxes, repair and upkeep expenses. Getting pre-approved for a home loan is an important first step in the home buying process, but it is only one consideration. A mortgage isn't the only recurring expense. Home ownership comes with a lot other ongoing costs which buyers need to anticipate and be prepared for. These can include homeowners insurance, homeowners association fees, utilities, repairs, maintenance costs. Maintenance alone can add up. I mean, a lot of people don't think about, but you got appliances that will need to be repaired and replaced, lawn upkeep. For people that are up north, you got snow removal, leaves to be raked. Buyers also need to consider property taxes, which increase pretty much yearly. These expenses can add greatly to your monthly outlays, making a home that seemed affordable on paper become pricey in reality. I've had a lot of clients call me and say, I can't afford home ownership. I need to get out, because they did not anticipate all the extra costs that comes to owning a home. So you should include all these costs as well as other regular expenses when determining how much home you can afford. A $1,500 per month mortgage payment may be doable, but add $1,500 in monthly expenses and suddenly your obligations have doubled. Having a budget can help you save not only for those additional expenses, but they can also help you save for down payment and closing costs too. Down payment is anywhere from 3 to 20%, depending on the type of loan product you qualify for. Buyers also need to set aside closing costs, which can amount to between 2 to 6% of the purchase price, depending on which state you live in. If you're purchasing a $200,000 home, you could pay anywhere between $4,000 to $10,000 in closing costs alone. The less you have to finance in the loan, the lower interest you will pay over the life of the loan. The sooner you will see a return on your investment. That return is called equity. Home ownership is still the American dream, but it can quickly turn into a nightmare if you miscalculate your purchase. First-time buyers in particular have a lot of wants, often more they can actually handle. They must make sure that the house they purchase is affordable by considering more than just the monthly mortgage payment. Without some upfront calculations, they find themselves house rich but cash poor, leading to all sorts of financial pain. Take time to cost out your dream before you sign for it. Ask yourself, do you know how to budget for a house that you can afford? Setting a budget and keeping to it is a great way to reduce stress. When you're ready to make an offer on your dream home, however, is virtually a necessity. First of all, you have to know how much house you can afford before taking a huge mortgage payment for the next 30 years. Just as importantly, you're going to have to prove to a bank or a mortgage lender that you can afford that loan, that you're going to be able to pay it back. So even if you're not naturally included to make budgets, it's time you start if you're serious about home ownership. So, do you know how to determine how much of a home you can afford? Well, let me help guide you with that. It's tempting to start by figuring out exactly what your new house will cost you. Don't do it that way. You need to know exactly how much you have available to spend on a new home. The way to do that is to calculate your personal monthly budget to get a clear idea how you spend on everything else and what will be left to spend on a house. First, determine your income. This total should reflect your household's total monthly net income, not your gross income, because you can't spend or save the money that your employer deducts from your paycheck. So always make sure and determine your net income. That's the money you take home after your employer deducts everything. Start with your regular monthly take-home pay. Add that regular monthly income earned by everyone in your house who contributes to the family expenses. So if no one is contributing but just you, only count you. Include any additional regular part-time, freelance, side hustle. Now, I will tell you, if it's not documented in tax records, mortgage lenders may not even use that extra money to compute your credit worthiness. But it would definitely matter when you're trying to figure out your personal budget. Include any other regular monthly income, such as Social Security, alimony, and child support. Second, identify all your expenses. Make a total of all your regular monthly expenses, not counting your housing expense. We'll talk about that later. This list should include things like food, clothing, transportation, health insurance, medical costs, if it's not already deducted from your net prior by your employer. Gas, electricity, other utility bills. Just know that these things will change when you buy a house, but you can use current numbers for now. Transportation. That means car payments, gas, train or bus fare, whatever your mode of transportation is. card maintenance, student loan payments, credit card, and any monthly debt payments, personal items and recreation. You go to Bath and Body Works, you have to have the special soaps, the toothpaste, your morning Starbucks stops, and your night outs with your friends, dinner, movie, entertainment. And then any charitable donation, if you give to your church on a regular basis, all of that should be counted as an expense. And then monthly after-tax contribution, should you have any, that goes into an investment account, a retirement account, or a savings account. Now, you have your net income and you have your total expenses for the month. Take your total monthly expenses and subtract them from your total monthly net income. For example, your monthly income is $6,000 and your monthly expenses are $3,600. For this example, that leaves you with $2,400. $2,400 isn't your housing budget or what you can afford for a monthly mortgage payment. Nope, this is where people go wrong. This is key. This is very important. You have $2,400, but that's not $2,400 for your mortgage payment. That's $2,400 for your housing budget. And we get into that. When people are buying their first home, many people don't realize the hidden costs of home ownership. First time buyers often leave cash poor because they only included or they only considered their monthly mortgage payment in their home budget. Let's start with the monthly mortgage payment, okay? You'll be making to the bank or the mortgage company every month. In most cases, it includes 4 components. That's your loan payment, which is your loan principal and interest, your property taxes, homeowner insurance, as well as private mortgage insurance. Now, some people will have this and some people won't, just depending on the loan product. But for this example, we're going to include it. To make things simple, we're assuming that your only purchase price changed, not the mortgage rate, not your taxes. So for a $200,000 home, you'll have a $1,200 payment. For $250,000, that's $1,400, and $300,000 is $1,650. Okay, that is your mortgage payment. We're not done because that's not your housing budget. Housing budget and mortgage payment is totally different. So, hidden items to add to your housing budget, right? So you got to take housing budget is your mortgage payment plus the additional hidden items. That's how you determine your housing budget. So housing budget should include maintenance. You either have to buy a lawnmower or pay someone to mow your lawn. You got furnace filters, light bulbs. Your home needs to be repainted, power wash, all those type of things. Then you may need a pest control service, alarm company. So you have reoccurring costs with the home. You need to account for those, right? Then you need an emergency fund. As a new homeowner, nothing comes with a lifetime guarantee. I don't even care if you build a new house. It doesn't come with a lifetime guarantee. So that water heater, the roof, something can go wrong that needs to be repaired or replaced. You should save money each month to be used for repairs and other expected problems. I was told a good rule of thumb is save 1% of the home purchase price each year. So if, for example, a $2,000 per year or $166 per month for a $200,000 home. So you should save, if you purchase a $200,000 home, you should plan to save 1%, which comes out to be about $2,000, and you divide that by 12, comes out to be $166 per month. Another good rule of thumb that I will share is that you can save $1 per square foot. So you purchase a 2,000 square foot home, then you will have $2,000 per year, which is $166 per month. You need to save for home association fees. Those tend to go up every year. They're not part of your mortgage payment, so you need to save for that. If you live in an area where there's bad weather that can do a lot of damage, you need to save for that. Especially like up north. You hear Connecticut, New York, all that snow is on a home. They need to get it off. Sometimes that's damage, the roof cave in, whatever. So I was told that if your home is 10 to 15 years old, you should increase the annual contributions by 10% for each factor each year. Okay? If you know your utility payments will change drastically, and if most people are going from an apartment to a house, it's going to increase. For instance, if you be moving from a 2-bedroom apartment without AC to a 2,500 square foot AC home, you should add extra into your housing budget to accommodate for that. Okay, now I think we're truly ready to calculate your housing budget. Remember, housing budget is your monthly mortgage payment plus all the other housing expenses that are considered hidden. Add your monthly payment and the other hidden costs we mentioned and compare that total number you came up with as available for housing. That will show you whether you're in good shape or bad shape. So for the example, let's just assume you're buying a 15-year-old $200,000 home, which will require a $1,200 monthly payment. To make things simple, we'll also assume the homeowner's insurance is included in your monthly mortgage payment and that you don't have HOA dues. You won't have to make any additional monthly maintenance payments. We'll include maintenance costs in your emergency fund. That starts at $166 a month and has to be increased by 10% to $182 because you're buying a 15-year-old house. Finally, let's assume that your home utility payments will be $200 more than you paying in the apartment. Looking at the numbers, taking all of that in, remember your available housing, because we started with $6,000 in net income, your expenses were $3,600, so that left us $2,400 for a housing budget, $2,400 a month for housing budget. Out of that housing budget, $1,200 will be your mortgage payment. Now we got $182 for emergency maintenance, because remember it's $166 per month plus a 10% because it's a 15-year-old house. Then we have $200 per month additional for utilities. That total monthly cost is about $1,582 per month. So right now we have a housing budget of $2,400, but based upon our calculations to buy that $200,000 home, we're below that housing budget, and that's what we want. That's exactly what we want. So congratulations, you're below that housing budget. Some may say you could even increase your price if you choose because you're below that housing budget. I say don't increase. Live there as a first-time home buyer. Get comfortable. Understand home ownership. Become aware. Save. Take that difference. Because remember, you got $2,400 and you really only going to use about 16 of that. So take that difference and start saving so you can upgrade or reinvest and buy other real estate. Okay? So one final caution, just because your budget shows that you can afford the home of your dreams, that doesn't mean your lender will automatically agree. So banks and mortgages companies use different formulas to decide on a home's affordability for your income level and financial situation. They'll look closely at your credit score. Depending on your qualifying levels for the type of loan product, conventional FHA, VA, or FHA loans. They also consider your full credit report, your debt to income, how much you owe versus how much you make, and a number of other pieces of documentation. But by putting together your housing budget, remember, housing budget is your mortgage payment plus all those other hidden costs, you have taken the essential first step in the home buying process. Being able to shop for a house without having to worry about whether you can afford it is key. Do you have other concerns about buying a house? If so, text me, Terri Young, at 980-202-1769 or email me at terriyoung@kw.com. When you don't budget, you risk spending more than you earn, going into debt, damaging your credit. Once you start the cycle of buying things on credit and not paying off the balance, when the bill arrives, your credit score is likely to hit. Credit utilization, which is the percentage of your available credit you're using, is a major component of your credit score. As your balances and utilizations rate creep up, your credit score goes down. If you max out your credit cards and struggle to pay on time as a result, your credit score plummets. Once your credit score drops, life gets harder. Employers, utility companies, mobile phone stores, insurance companies all check credit, not just lenders. With a bad credit score, you could be denied housing, loans, credit, or even a job. You pay higher fees and higher interest. Service providers might require a deposit from you, so get on a budget. You can avoid debt, pay your bills on time, and keep your credit score high through budgeting. Remember, a budget offers pathways to financial goals that can be difficult to achieve without them. A budget is a simple tool, after all, mostly a way of tracking what money comes into your life and where and how much goes out. Once you get a clear snapshot of your income and expenses, you can then direct your money purposefully and carefully towards the things you need and the things you want. Many big goals, from taking a vacation, buying a car, purchasing a home, preparing for retirement, or paying for kids' college, require forethought and planning. Budget is your tool to make all these goals happen. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, stuck under a mountain of debt, and have no emergency fund or savings, you're living on the edge of financial ruin. It's not just emergencies that can throw you into a tailspin. It's poor financial planning, not budgeting too. Because you haven't given yourself any wiggle room, even a slight change in your circumstance hurts. Most people, when consider their car insurance going up 5%, are not getting a bonus this year emergency. But when you stretch too thin and you have no plan, these small things cause big trouble. With a budget in place, you're able to see where you should reduce or eliminate expenses. You might compare your income to your spending and decide a second job is the answer. Budgeting allows you to see your whole financial picture and prevent financial crisis. Even if you're not thinking about purchasing a home, but you want to learn to budget and manage your monies, feel free to contact me, Terri Young, at 980-202-1769 or via email at terriyoung, TERRIYOUNG, at kw.com, and I'll be happy to share some tools, resources. Budgeting to help your money means a better you mentally, emotionally, and physically. That is a wrap for today's show. Join us next week as we continue to divorce the landlords that keep us from being our better selves. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Continue to tune in every Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please remember to connect with me on Facebook, Divorce Your Landlord. Also, if you want to be a guest on my show or want free advertising, call me at 980-202-1769 or email me at terriyoung@kw.com. You have been listening to Divorce Your Landlord. I'm your host, Terri Young. WDRB Media, the voice of the community, the only station giving you double the information and inspiration. Until next week, continue to be blessed. Did you know if you get pre-approved and go under contract now, you will not have a mortgage payment until March of 2022? Got real estate questions? Call us at Z3 Carolinas. Reach us at 980-231-1428 or visit our website at www.z3carolinas.com. Did you know you can get pre-approved to purchase a home with a credit score of 600 or higher? And all you have to pay is 3.5% in down payment? If you have a goal to purchase a home, call or text me, Terri Young, at 980-202-1769. Again, that's 980-202-1769. Remember, I help buyers and sellers worldwide.